All right. Thank you so much for tuning in on another episode of Catch Up with Kestner. Today, I have another good friend of mine that I met back in college. We shared a lot of memories in biology, in chemistry together, a lot of struggles. But I've been blessed enough to be able to reconnect with him and have him on the show today. This is Matthew. Matthew is doing up to a lot of good things, a lot of great things, hearing about what his journey has been like over the past few years. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm going to let him do a lot of the talking. So, Matthew, for the people that don't know who you are, introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about what you're up to right now. We'll start off with that.
Cool. Well, again, I appreciate you for having me, and I like the title, "Catching Up with Kestner." It got a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just thank you for having me and this opportunity to share my experience and also be able to hear from you because you were, like you said, we have a lot of cherished memories together in college. Some
Sure.
really good memories. Yeah, fun times. Man, I still got pictures in my phone from
Dang.
the late night staying up and stuff. Yeah,
So do I.
one of my only study partners. So yeah, so a little brief introduction. So I'm Matthew R. Culberson. Was born in Stockton, California. I've
Yep.
lived majority of my life in Stockton, but I've lived in Fresno. I lived in Los Angeles. I've lived in Elk Grove, and of course in Davis.
Yeah.
And I'm currently residing in Ann Arbor, Michigan, because I'm attending the University of Michigan,
Oh,
um, getting my PhD in organic chemistry. I have a really big family. I'm very family oriented. I love family. I love food. I'm married. I'm committed to my wife. I love my wife to death.
yep.
That's my best friend. That's my other half. And yeah, that's pretty much just trying to go through life and reach as many lives as I can. Be what I may have needed when I was younger. So that's pretty much about me and my mission. Yeah,
Oh,
being a light.
so thinking back to when we were freshmen in college, we had like really big dreams for ourselves. Honestly, Matt, you have always been good at the sciences, like always been good at the science. I remember studying for those chem finals, and I'd be studying for hours at night, and you'd be on top, and I was always rooting for you. And I always went for you for not just for tutoring, but for advice and just like you said, those late night study sessions. And we spent some time talking about life and basically getting through our first year together. So just quick reminiscing of shout out of those times. I appreciate you during those times, and like even now, of course, helping us get to where we are. I remember that you were thinking about the MD, PhD route when you were younger, and trying to navigate those waters. So my first question for you was, what was the process like weighing between pursuing just an MD versus just a PhD? Because I know that you want to become a doctor, maybe thinking about both, but now here you are wanting to pursue chemistry to be PhD. So
Yeah,
talk me through that process of of what it was like to make that decision.
yeah. With that, I'll start where you started in the foundation, the core of this love for science that I've had, and that developed and was fostered by a lot of the mentors that we both had, and
Yep.
being in the program that we are, or even alumni from there. So my appreciation for science and that love of science or being good at science. I don't think I was, but I survived
Pretty
clearly.
good.
I developed that in high school. I got sick with GERD, which is a gastroesophageal acid reflux disease,
Right.
and I was just curious with the molecular mechanisms of the body and just the way the body functioned. I fell in love with the body before then. I never thought about it. I was still um, wasn't really conscious about who I was or my place in society. I didn't have the best role models growing up as far as men. And so
Yeah.
a lot of the examples that were set were involved in lives of poverty and crime. So
Right.
I dabbled a little bit in that, but I always knew that there was something higher and bigger and et cetera. And also had a faith. So
Yep.
um, in, science kind of saved me because I was heading down the wrong road,
Mm.
and thankfully, I feel that God allowed that to happen so that um, I can make something of myself and choose a better option or a pathway to go down for a life outcome. And so with that, going to Davis, majoring in biochemistry and molecular biology, being in the bus program with you, and I think that that curiousness, that that sense of hope that I was clinging on to through science
Yeah.
is kind of what kept me and solidified me and sticking with the science, although it was really tough,
Yeah.
as you've already mentioned. And so um, I I remember those the hours that we both were putting in, and we were getting different results, and I could never understand that. And it is what it is. But
Yeah.
it was very interesting to see how um, you know life can be comical sometimes. So
Yeah.
um, things that I didn't understand then, and then I find myself in a situation, then it gives me perspective on what things were like when we were studying together, and et cetera. So um uh yeah, so science I think in essence, I actually was told by one of my mentors. He told me, he said, you've always been naturally, excuse me, inquisitive. And so
Yep.
by nature, you were a scientist, but you didn't know that because all you knew was medicine.
Mm.
And that's often the narrative that is given to people choosing career paths. You become a medical doctor.
Yeah.
That's, you don't think about becoming a scientist unless, those people who literally feel they were born scientists. They were,
Right.
picking apart Legos or digging up dirt and fossils, at freaking 5 years old. That wasn't my story,
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of fell into it, but nonetheless, I still had this inquisitive nature to me. And I think I attributed that to a lot of reasons of why that I had that within me.
Mm.
But nonetheless, the inquisitive side of me uh, was, like I said earlier, is fostered and developed into realizing that uh, the scientist within myself, that undiscovered talent that I had and had not known until I had the correct resources and mentors to show
Mhm.
me that this was a possibility for me. And so I think one of the major components was that was BUS because it was a research-based program.
Yeah.
Maybe my life would have been different had I not been in BUS, but thank God that I was. And so
Mm.
um, from that, I knew that, like I said, I was still curious with the body, of
Yeah.
course. And then that curiousness with the body made me hyper curious. So instead of being curious about all the functions of the body, I started to narrow down on the
Yeah.
chemistry, the chemical component of the body. And I think the fact that we had that mentor, we both share that resource,
Yeah.
Rolf,
Yep.
that was able to be developed a little bit more than other
Rest in peace.
sciences. Exactly. Yeah. So with that, I just loved chemistry, and it was a tough decision because I had a lot of there's some things that I will never tell anyone, but I've had a lot of opportunities that I just did not take because I had to follow what I felt was best for me, what I
Mm.
wanted out of my future,
That's good.
that was going to be respectable for myself and those that I love. So I knew that medicine, this is just for me. This is
Yeah.
not everyone, but I wanted a family. I wanted a good work-life balance. I
Mm.
wanted to, have a flexible lifestyle.
Yeah.
Grad school can be flexible, and I knew that. I
Yeah.
already was naturally inquisitive.
Yeah.
I like science. I loved chemistry,
Yep.
and eventually, all these things just added up to me, making a conscious decision. 4 years later, I spent 4 years being a pre-med student. In the fifth year, as I graduated, I realized that wasn't my passion, and I knew what I loved and how I wanted to give back with that too, because
Yeah.
as I went through the major, we're, naturally primitive creatures. And when you only see you that looks like you in these classes, you question, you know. And so I saw that there was inequality or inequity in science, and so I felt that was part of my mission too, is to change that narrative and bring more people of color, Black and brown, minorities, just period, showing them that they have the capacity and potential to also do what I'm doing. And I think that that's not often the case of what the language is, you know, the rhetoric behind being a scientist. So yeah, that's what led me into eventually, you know, I always tell people I jumped off of the MD train, because, you know, that train is going, man. That lifestyle, man, it's a lot, but
it is.
I jumped off the train. For me, that's what it felt like. And I actually started to follow my passion, you know, and I knew, you know, what I thought was gonna be best for me. People do it. People still have, you know, work-life balance, flexible hours in medical school, and except, you know, people make it work. But I saw that lifestyle. I've had plenty of experiences in both MD and PhD to know what was going to be best for me and my family. Those are my priorities, and the lifestyle I want to live thereafter, the degree, you know, what impact do I want to make? So I tell people, I joke, I say, instead of me being the physician, I'll just make sure the people that need to be physicians get A's, so they can be good physicians, you know. So we're still doctors, right? I'm still getting my doctorate. I'm training the doctors.
I like that.
Yeah.
Two things I like from that. First one was when you said at first that there's so much more to science than medicine, right? I feel like a lot of people, not just going into college, but a lot of people, you know, medicine's this overarching science that people, you know, really want to pursue. And then when you get down to it, you know, you start learning more about medicine, and there's so much other components, right? Just to put it in easy terms to say. And within those different components, you find different passions. And, you know, in your route in medicine, you found your love for chemistry. And because of your love for chemistry, you found all these different avenues and these different routes that, you know, you still love medicine and you still love what that was about because of your condition growing up. But, you know, when you got hyper, you know, about it, when you got really, really into it, you understood that it was about the molecular scale, and you learned about the chemistry. And because of the chemistry, that's how you found pretty much your passion in wanting to pursue your doctorate through grad school. And the life balance and all those things that you were saying is huge. Like I said, I know it. A lot of people in medicine, they found the balance. They can do it. They're machines that way. And I don't know how that worked out, because, you know, I used to be on that route too. And then I found my calling in something else. But yeah, like I'd like to say too that I jumped off that train pretty early. I think earlier than you did. But that was just because of, you know, the path that I was on. And, you know, you had your own path too. And it sounds like you really found what you were meant to do, you know. So I'm happy that you've found your moment, found your stride, decided between the two. I'm sure it was a hard decision.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it was a hard decision, just because, like you said, you probably got a lot of opportunities that you could have taken. I saw that in college, man. You were getting stuff left and right, and, you know, not to put your stuff out there, but man, I was just like, this is awesome. Like, I love how you were getting the chance to do what you wanted to do, and you were getting recognition for that. So
right.
always appreciate you for that. But I'm glad that you followed your heart too. You know,
is this okay if I stop you right there? Because I really appreciate what you said, that aspect of your calling, you know, and that's what I felt that I was following through with. You know, I it was very clear. I had a gift with teaching chemistry. Don't know where it came from. I believe I attribute it to my mom. She's an educator, so it could be, you know, epigenetic. I don't know, but I clearly had a calling for teaching chemistry, and I loved it. I saw it in everything. I couldn't look at anything but think about, oh, I'm looking at a laptop. I'm thinking about the silicon bonds. You know, I'm looking at paint. I'm thinking about the lead. You know, I just, everything was chemistry to me. And why is this material harder than this? You know, I had all these questions, and it all came down to chemistry for me. I think a lot of the components too are physics, but, you know, it's physicists for physics. They can have that. I don't want to get that deep.
I might call you out on that too.
Exactly.
But then, so going more into your calling, I think that through your walk in school and through your walk of trying to figure out what you wanted, you stuck with the honesty in yourself. What were you passionate about? What was going to be the best for your family? What was going to be the best for your lifestyle? And the fact that you held on to that made actually maybe your decisions a little bit easier too, because you were thinking about yourself, right? You know,
Yeah.
I think it's really natural in the world that we live today for all these different voices and all these different narratives, like you say, to weigh in on what decisions we should make. But at the same time, what's going to advance ourselves? What are going to make our families better? What's going to make our communities better? And through that, you know, when we think about the bigger picture, when we think about our place in that community, it makes deciding a little bit easier because we stick to what we're passionate about. We stick to the people that we care about, and we're led down a path that is more family, community, loving oriented, instead of something that's just being told of what we have to do, right? So
Agree. Yeah.
I appreciate that your decision led you to where you wanted to be. So,
Yeah.
which kind of leads me to my next question is, seeing how well you're doing, like shout out to you, Mish, for accepting such an awesome person. Like I know that you're killing it in Michigan. Looking down the line when you become Dr. Culberson, what does it mean for you to ultimately become a chemistry professor? What does that ultimately mean to you?
Yeah, I think that it it means that, you know, on so many levels, for one, I've broken a lot of barriers,
There you go.
because I exist in a society that is set up to leave me at a disposition, and I didn't make the rules. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to maneuver around the rules, or you
Right.
know, follow the rules, and I think, you know, first off, you know, uh, when I was actually even looking for a mentor in chemistry that I can identify with, that looked like me, because that was going to let me know everything I need to know about this field. You know, I need to hear from people that are doing this, because
Right.
I know that, you know, we exist in a society that's inherently founded on systematic racism. It's just a
Right.
fact.
Yeah.
And so and it was evident when I searched through the catalog, or the faculty
Mm,
list on chemistry department websites, and I didn't see not one Black person, not one. So um, I think that, you know, the fact that me becoming that one that's needed in a department for another student is going to mean everything to me. You know, that's another component of what it mean to be a professor. So one, um, breaking those systematic barriers,
yep.
and of course, they'll always be there. There's always, you know, until we can one day get over racism, and just be humankind.
Yep.
It's just set up that way. So it means that I'm breaking barriers. It also means that I followed my passion. I didn't live for someone else. I lived for me. And this is what fulfills me.
Hmm.
And it also it sets an example to people that have came from the same area that I came in also. So when you know, um, people see, oh, he came from the south side of Stockton.
Yeah.
He lived one street over from the projects, Conway Homes of Southwest Stockton. He grew up on with all the other, you know, knuckleheads and
Yeah.
et cetera. And look where his life went. It'll be an example for someone that needs to see that. So and also the turnaround rate of impact, I feel,
Mm.
uh, being a chemistry professor, that means a lot to me. So I'm not stuck with the same students every, you know, for a year cycle,
Right.
depending on what university I go to. I'm
Yeah.
impacting lives every 3 months, every 3 months, every 4 months, every
Yeah.
4 months. So
Good one. Yeah. Yeah.
um, that means a lot to me. That's what that means to me, that I can have an ongoing impact. And ultimately, I just want to create a safe space for people of color. I want
Of course.
to create more just opportunities for um, uh, blending of cultures,
Right.
and you know, just getting to learn and understand, and be educated about all groups of people, the majority and the minority. You know, I
Yep.
think, you know, I have that type of mind state of Martin Luther King, where it's just like, can we all just progress as humankind? Like, we could have been on 3 moons by now had we not been so focused on
Good.
racism. You know what I mean? Like
Good.
our energy is going in the wrong place. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that for me, that's kind of a side, but it means a lot. It means a lot, me being a professor. And I think, I have to wait till I get there, and it might mean even more, I always haven't, I think we all struggle from imposter syndrome from what I hear, just being in academia. So
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm not, accomplishing enough or doing enough, or
Right.
things might not mean that much to me now, but the idea of it at least is promising. And I hope that, it continues to develop meaning as I become and am becoming a chemistry professor, expert in my field.
Definitely.
Um, yeah.
A big theme is learning through representation, right?
Yeah.
Because when we identify with people from similar cultures, from similar backgrounds, or just even look the same, when we have role models and teachers and professors and just any figures that we can connect with, our learning
Mhm.
actually expands. Our learning actually deepens, and that's when we actually feel most connected. That's when we feel the most cared for, is when we identify with people that we look up to. So when you talk about it in just being a professor, right? If you have that student that you can identify with, when you're a student and you identify with the upbringing or the culture of your professor, whether you're, no matter what culture, you access the content, the learning a little bit more, and that's actually proven. So representation and learning goes hand in hand. I appreciate that your heart is on um, bringing up more of the minorities into this field, because when it comes to learning and representation in education, it's huge, right?
Right.
When you're raising up the next generation of students of academics, um, you need them to be educated about everything possible, right? You
Right.
want
Right.
them to learn how to be able to adjust to racism and learn how to break down those barriers, but
Right.
you're
Right.
not going to do that if you
And
don't have the right faculty member, the right professor, the right teacher that's going to steer and guide those conversations, right? You have different people that would rather put it under the rug and brush over the conversation, and then there's different professors that will speak out on it and actually start a different narrative to hopefully push a different narrative, right? So
mhm.
I appreciate that you're on that path, because we need more people like you speaking out with the actual experiences that need to be said. So
Right. Right. On that
representation.
note, I just wanted to add, I thought about this, and I often think about this is, there's so much, with that, the emphasis on, providing equity to
Yep.
minorities, and giving the same playing field. There's so much hidden
Yep.
and lost talent within these communities, because
Yep.
it's just the way it's set up. I mean, I came up with dudes that that were in the streets that probably was smarter than me, but they never got the chance to live, to even never got the resource, they never got the opportunity, they never got
The
someone
chance.
to mentor them. So
Right.
it's like I said, we probably could have been even further as a humankind by now, had we, um, you know, addressed these issues a long time ago that we're still going through today.
Right.
So yeah, there was a thought I just wanted to share. Yeah.
No, that's good, because I definitely think about people that I've shared a walk with in terms of education, in terms of just going through school, and there's people that didn't get the same opportunities as I did, but we went to the same middle school, we went to the same high school, right? We walked the same floors, right? And we had the same opportunities, we had the same models, but what else was there? And it was because of the opportunity, um, and it because of the chances and like you said, the different barriers, right? There's so many different barriers out there that's it's feeding into who gets to do what. And I was
Mhm.
just very fortunate, very blessed enough to be able to be in the position that I am now, and I'm sure that you could say the same thing, right? But does it stop there? It definitely doesn't stop there. That's why we're coming into the positions that we are now, so that we can make actual change. So when I
Yeah.
think about the other person, right, whoever that is, we're doing it for them also. It's not just for ourselves, like we said. That's one thing I really value about you, Matt, is that you're always about community, and you're always about understanding where you come from, always understanding, the people that that you grew up with, and that's something that I always noticed going through college with you and just going through the years is that, man, Matt always loved his family, and he always loved his friends, and he always had a big heart from where he came from. So looking at that, talk about how you hope to bridge your roots in your community in Stockton and in all the different communities that you've had a part in with your future as a professor. Talk about how you're going to bridge your roots with that.
Yeah, I think um, that's a multi-layered
Yeah,
a response to this question, and
put it all out.
um, yeah. So I'm currently in a state of mind where I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with that,
Yeah,
given um, a lot of experiences that I've had, I looked up to late rapper Nipsey Hussle, and I kind of see what happened to him, and that's another, one, like an example of when I'm thinking about the experiences that I have with going back to the community
yeah,
and investing in it in whatever way. And I think that first I want to uh, use most of my energy to make sure my home is established than anything. So I think connecting to those roots,
yeah,
and within my family, making sure my wife and kids are good,
definitely.
are and my faith,
Yeah,
and my community. I want to make sure those things are as solid as they can be, and then I'll start thinking about how I want to give back to Stockton. If I end up giving back to Stockton,
of course.
I think a lot of the people that invested in me um, were not from Stockton, and so I have to incorporate that into my decision because
Yeah,
I want to give back to those communities that saw something in me,
yeah,
and one of those was like Sacramento and El Grove. I mean, heavily invested in me, and
yeah.
so I always think about giving back to the city. And
Hmm.
so I think I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Who knows? Things may change by
Right.
that time, but before then, there's other things that I want to um, invest within my roots. And one of those is family. You got to make sure your home is right before anything. That's what I believe. So,
Definitely.
and then we'll just go from there. God willing.
So say circumstances go well, right? You're in the right place, you're in the right home state, like you said, the right mental space. What is your ideal way of giving back to Sacramento?
Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't figured it out yet, but I do
Yeah.
know that as an educator,
Right.
education is important to me. So I want to find avenues to do science education.
Mm.
And I don't want to give any spoilers. I don't want to steal my ideas out there, but I
Yeah,
have all kinds of things tossing and turning in my head. But
right.
ultimately, I feel that a lot of marginalized communities
Yeah.
are miseducated or uneducated in science. So I want to provide equity in that space,
Mhm.
and ultimately I'll find some form of doing that where I'm able to educate poor communities that don't have um, you know the basic knowledge of don't store your bleach under the sink next to this, and
Yeah,
this later mothballs are toxic. There's
yeah,
these simple things that a lot of communities, they don't read the back of their labels.
yeah.
So I want to give back through that way. That's one of the ideas, the envisions that I have with
Mhm.
reaching back into my roots and my community is through science education, um, and finding a way to make it uh, sustainable. So even after me, there is always some pot of money from somewhere contributing to making sure people at least have the opportunity and resource to know what these chemicals, everyday chemicals, the fact we're made out of chemicals, that simple fact is not known in a lot of
Yep.
communities,
Yeah.
so uh, just science education in some form. Yeah.
So you talked about this, and I actually got inspired to ask this. Is in the time that we live now, right where um, different narratives and different racist narratives are bringing into the conversation, and we focus a lot on history education. We focus a lot on English education, right? And educating these communities on different information. Why is science education so important in pushing this narrative? So what I feel like science can get overlooked a lot of times when we're talking about these different issues. And I was just actually thinking about this right now. Why is it so important to make sure that these different communities that we come from that don't have the same opportunities, why is science so important?
I think for me, in my perspective, uh, it's important. Its importance lies in the frequency of interaction with it. So you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you're using a chemical. At the end of the day,
That's true.
you're using water. Let's talk about water quality.
Yeah.
You got to be educated about what's in your water. You turn on the light switch. Let's learn about light. That's science. Everything. It's what we interact with the most, in my perspective, is
Right.
science and some of these basic facts that are unknown. And so you have situations where people get hurt or it's just extreme. So I'm not saying this,
Yeah.
technically correctly, but just knocking off years of your life based off your exposures to certain chemicals. And so I think that's why it's so important to me, is the frequency in which we interact with science, and turning on your car, just everything. People, I just was thinking about how many people have been lost to leaving the car on with the garage down, and then carbon monoxide, you can't smell it, it's odorless, it's colorless. So just these, these I think that's for me why science education is so important, is the frequency in which we interact with science in our everyday lives. I never forget when we were taking physics together, and we learned about concave and convex lenses, and I can't look at my glasses the same anymore because I think about the physics of it now. So we were just constantly interacting with science, and I see the beauty in that. So I just want to share the world through my lens of what that means when every moment I live. And so, and also for me, because I believe in the faith of every time that, I'm observing this phenomenon, I'm observing the creation of God, and it's a wonderful experience.
I think a huge part that you mentioned is just the interaction of science in our everyday communities, right? We focus on kind of the surface level of our, the sociology maybe, or the psychology of our interactions with each other, but then we sometimes we forget about those scientific interactions too. They go hand in hand. It's all science, whether that's
right. Yeah, social science. You're right. Yeah.
Sciences.
So people, we need sociologists, psychologists, all of them, right? Yeah, they're all forms of science. I agree.
But that's why science is so important, because like you said, on the chemistry level too, I mean, we're interacting with chemicals all the time, right? Like you said, we're all chemicals. We're made up of chemicals, but our body composition and what we interact with, what we put into our bodies, what we touch, and everything, and all these different things, it affects our lifespan, and it affects how we our health, and ultimately our family's health and our children's health, and all these generational problems. When we look at diseases or any other things of that nature, like it starts from what we do every day and what we put into our bodies and what we don't put into our bodies, and all these different things. So I think that when we're thinking about giving back to our communities, science education is huge, because it often gets overlooked. We worry about a lot of other things too, and not saying that one issue is bigger than the other, but science education is huge, and there could be a lot more attention in that field. So I appreciate you pointing that out. That's big.
Yeah. Thank you.
One thing that's huge, and you touched upon it throughout in parts, is your faith. I always loved having someone that understood, kind of, appreciated the sciences, but also appreciated how faith and the works of God goes hand in hand. Talk about how you're able to appreciate both, and how you allow kind of God to work in what you're doing today.
Yeah. This is my philosophy, I would say. I think that, and I had this shared with me. So the seed was planted. I just chose to water it. I had an MD PhD actually at UC Davis. He told me, he said, every time I do science, I look at the face of God. And I immediately knew exactly what he was saying. And ever since, that seed was planted, I don't look at science the same, because when I think about an atom, I just think about God, right? And then especially with, if you believe in, people have all kind of religions,
Of course.
and the one I follow particularly, I think about even the similarity between the English word atom and then atom, so
Yeah.
atom and atom. So just the whole, the start of everything, and the basic components. So I think I can't look at a life without thinking about um, the divine intelligence of it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, for what I believe is that you can't have one without the other. And that's what I see in my life. And I just hold on to that. It's a process, and it's a learning process, and trying to understand God through science. And so I just take that with me. I don't even feel that the things that I accomplish are mine alone. And so that's what I hold on to, and that's what I carry with me through my faith.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love how that's a huge component of how you make your decisions too, right? I think just keeping in mind that we walk the faith with God, and we have certain challenges, we have certain decisions that we need to make. But if we keep Him at the center of it, like He'll shine light on what we need to do, and we just got to trust in what He has for us. So I appreciate that's a part of who you are. That's always been a part of who you are, but I've always appreciated that component. So shifting gears to wrap up kind of this segment, is we're going back to the root of it. We're going to your mom. I had the chance, I remember, meeting your mom for the first time, and shout out to your mom, loving woman. I always appreciate how much love you had for her and how much love she had for you. Thinking about the role that your mom had in just your life, what's some words of wisdom that you could share to all the moms out there trying to support their kids?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up, because I wasn't going to leave this interview without talking about moms.
I know.
Yeah. I almost forgot you have interacted with her a couple of times. Yes,
Yeah.
she knows your name. Yeah. So I mean, both my parents. I know the fact that I even have both of my parents, alive. I can communicate and talk to them is highly important. My dad is equally important to me.
Yep.
But my mom, she sacrificed a lot. She gave me the world. She always believed in me as an individual, doing what I wanted to do. She's always supported me. I was always self-driven. And she just tried to make sure she did everything in her power to support whatever that was, as long as it was something constructive.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've been my own role model in what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into college. I wanted to pursue science, based on my experiences. I wanted to become a professor because that's what I love and it's my passion, etc. So my mom fostered that. I mean, she sacrificed, and that's probably not even the best word. She gave everything, to make sure that I got an opportunity, right?
Yep.
And so, and again, both of my parents, my dad
Of course.
has always been in my ear about, upholding the values and stances as a man, and etc. So,
Yep.
both of my parents, I'm thankful for both of them. And I just got lost in thought. Am I addressing the question?
Yeah.
Inspiration for the right. So the next part was the words of wisdom to. So I'm not a parent. I don't know what it's like being a mom. I don't know what it's like being a parent, but I think that based off being a child of a very caring parent and what I've seen, right, the words of wisdom I would have for mothers out there is keep embracing that identity and the nature and nurture of being a mother, being a woman, the creators of our planet, women, particularly Black women. So I just encourage that they keep staying true to them and investing in in their children, and making sure their needs are met, and fostering their child's potential, and sacrificing, and staying, sticking to it, staying dedicated, never giving up. My mom has never given up with me, no matter what, I got involved in life, crazy experiences, but my mom has never given up on me. So that's the word of wisdom I would have. I think that's already ingrained in most parents, to just never give up on their children, no matter what. Yeah, that's what I would leave the audience with. Yeah.
Yep. I love it. Moms are giving up everything so that we have everything. And, I always appreciated that relationship, that strong relationship that you had with your mom. And just, every time you had something, every time you earned something, every time, God gave you a blessing, like you always gave it up to mom. And,
Yeah, for sure.
I've always admired that, giving back the glory to the people that like allowed you to get that glory,
For
so
sure.
that's a huge thing too. It's like we don't, when we have the blessings that we have, when we get the opportunities that we get, glory to someone else, because that wasn't me, what I mean? Like
Right.
that was
Right.
mom, that was God, that was dad, or like whoever it was. Like
Yeah,
I am here because of someone else.
for
So
sure.
just keeping that in mind, keeping that in your heart is awesome. So
Yeah. Thanks.
final words as we wrap this up, Matt.
Uh, I'm just thankful to see you, man. It's been so
Yeah,
long, and
it
I'm glad to
has.
see you're doing well.
Thank
When I think Hawaii, I think of like what I see in your background right now. That's the life.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah. I gotta make it.
paintings. My
Yeah.
girlfriend actually painted them, so
Oh,
shout out to her.
nice.
Yeah.
Shout out to her. Yeah, skills.
Yeah.
Someone famous. I hope they're watching it. Just picks her up, man. They see
Yeah,
this.
you know where to hit me up. But for everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in. Matt, I appreciate you. I don't get to say it enough, but just know that I'm always rooting for you.
Thanks,
Like I'm
bro.
rooting for all my
Same
friends.
here.
Praying for you. Praying over your new relationship and your new marriage. I love that life that you're living. That you're just able to stay so positive and have so much love for your family. So praying for you. Keep up what you're doing at UMich. Praying over the work that you're doing, and the stance that you have, your heart for your communities. So keep doing what you're doing. Stay in touch.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you for sharing what you had to share today.
We'll do. Baruch Hashem. Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Later,
All
man.
right. Take care.